I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Camarillo City Council. It's April 26, 2023. Could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Kildee.
Here.
Councilmember Martinez Bravo.
Here.
Councilmember Tennyson.
Here.
Vice Mayor Tremblay. Mayor Santangelo.
Here. The purpose for opening at this hour is to go into closed session, so I'll have the city attorney read the item for closed session.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. We have 2 items listed on the agenda for anticipated litigation, and if there is any reportable action, I will make that report at the end of the regular City Council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we'll go into closed session.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Camarillo Board of Library Trustees. Let the record reflect that all council members are present. Would Mayor Santangelo, can you please lead us in the flag salute?
Please stand. Hand over heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll move to the approval of the agenda. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Okay. Seeing none, we will move to public comments. Is there anyone from the community who would like to address the library board? Okay. Seeing none, we will move over to our consent calendar. Can we please get a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar?
Second.
Okay, please vote. All right. There we go. Okay. We will now move to the discussion items. Do we have staff to present a report?
Good afternoon, Madam President and fellow library trustees. On Monday, Governor Gavin Newsom issued a proclamation during this week, April 23rd to 29th, as California Library Week. California Library Week recognizes the essential services, resources, and opportunities that libraries provide for all Californians. There are 1,127 public libraries in California that serve as a hub for lifelong learning, community engagement, and economic development. Last month, we celebrated the library's building's sweet 16th birthday. It was a month-long celebration that included a pink and purple balloon arch for people to take selfies, trivia and movie screens that covered pop culture in 2007, as well as a weekly Did You Know series that highlighted library history in the building's opening day. It was an opportunity for library staff, patrons, and partners to reflect on our rich history and look forward to the future. We are fortunate to have a beautiful building that encompasses many of our services from toddler story time to adult literacy. The value of a library card is priceless, and the library experience goes beyond the books that we hold. Whether it's a quiet place to study or a safe place to go after school, Camarillo Public Library is a destination for people to imagine and engage, all without charging the consumer. Unfortunately, many libraries across the nation are facing intellectual freedom attacks. It's been reported that library book challenges are at record highs. During California Library Week, I want us to continue to celebrate the ways we have supported the people's library stories, which includes providing an inclusive space for lifelong learning and personal enrichment for all ages and demographics. So I'm grateful to you, the library board, our city staff, library staff, and our many library volunteers and community partners who support our efforts and our mission to serve the Camarillo community in their quest for knowledge. That concludes my report, and I'm happy to address any questions.
Any questions for staff?
I have a question.
Yes.
How many public libraries did you say there was in the state of California?
1,127.
1,127, okay. That's a lot of libraries.
That is.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more questions? Okay. Thank you so much for the update, and this is a receive and file. We will now move forward to oral communications. Are there any oral communications from our council members? No? Okay. The only thing that I will just remind is that I asked staff to include all of the events, library events, on our council calendar, so that's available to all of us. Okay, we will move forward to adjourn this meeting.
All right, I'd like to call the regular Camarillo Sanitary District meeting of April 26th to order, as well as the special meeting for Wednesday, April 26th to order. And let the record reflect that all the directors are present. And we have the approval of the agenda, which is approved. And we're going to get down to general public comments for the Sanitary District and the special meeting. Anybody like to come forward and make any comments? Hearing none. We'll get down to consent calendar. We can actually do the regular sanitary district consent calendar approval and also the special on the same motion. So
I'll move.
there's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on this? Seeing none, please vote. That passes unanimously. So that is going to get us down to item F. It's a discussion items, and it's going to be award of custodial services. However, we are going to talk about that when it comes up on the general council calendar. So with that, may I close the special district one at this particular point? The special meeting, can I close that? Do you want me to recess the special as well? Okay. So with that, we're going to recess both the special meeting and the regular sanitary district meeting, and we'll take it up when the city council hears the item. So with that, we're in recess.
And I will reopen the meeting of the city council and let the record reflect that all council members are present. And are there any changes to the agenda? Seeing none, we'll keep moving. We'll go on to oral communications, and let's see, tonight we'll start with Dr. Martinez Bravo. Sorry.
Yeah. David, would you like to start?
Dave-
I'm still pulling.
Mr. Tennyson, would you like to start?
On April 19th, along with the rest of council, I attended the volunteer recognition dinner. It was a very nice event for all of Camarillo's volunteers. On April 20th, I attended a half-day annual water symposium hosted by AWA. And yesterday, along with Councilmember Kildee, I attended both the Finance Committee meeting and the Investment Committee meeting. And that is it.
Now, yes, my computer is up and ready now. Thank you for that. On April 18th, I attended an event honoring the Holocaust Remembrance Day with Anti-Defamation League. April 19th, I also attended the volunteer recognition at the Camarillo Ranch. And thank you so much to all of our volunteers who really help this community and our city move forward. On April 19th, I attended the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee meeting with Councilmember Tremblay. On April 20th, I attended the Citizens Advisory Committee meeting also with Councilmember Tremblay. On April 20th, I did go to the EDC meeting, but there was no quorum, so we couldn't continue on with business. On April 20th, I attended an evening with Joseph Alexander, a Holocaust survivor, and that really was a very special night. It really was inspiring and heartwarming, and at the same time, just a reminder for all of us to continue to do what is right. And then April 21, I attended a viewing of the documentary of Parents Against the Santa Susana Field Laboratory. April 22, I attended the Boys and Girls Club of Camarillo fundraiser and disco-themed gala. That was a fun event with some of our council members as well. April 25th, I attended the budget books review with Mark and Councilmember Tennyson. April 26th, I attended the Utilities Committee today with Councilmember Tremblay. And just moving on to community events, today is Administrative Professionals Day, and I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank all of our administrators here who work so hard every single day, and we really could not do it without your support and your work. So thank you for all that you do. I also wanted to take this time to just give my condolences to the parents, the family, and the loved ones of Wesley Welling and all who were impacted by the horror tragedy in Thousand Oaks. When one city grieves, it definitely impacts all of us. So my heart and my prayers are with everyone. And then just a reminder of an event by our district attorney, Eric Nazarenko. There is a national crime victims commemorative ceremony honoring human trafficking survivor voices. It is actually tomorrow, Thursday, April 27th, from 3 to 5 at Simi Valley City Hall, which is at 2929 Tapo Canyon Road. And I just wanted to take also this opportunity to provide this last information in Spanish for our Spanish-speaking members of our community. El fiscal del Condado de Ventura, Eric Nazarenko, va a tener una ceremonia conmemorativa nacional de víctimas del crimen en honor a las voces de los sobrevivientes de personas traficadas. Este evento va a ser mañana, jueves 27 de abril, de 3 a 5, en la ciudad de Simi Valley, ubicada en 2929 Tapo Canyon Road. Okay, thank you so much. Gracias.
Mr. Tremblay?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. For meetings attended, April 14th, the Metrolink Executive Committee and Contract Operations and Maintenance and Safety Committees. On April 15th, I was privileged to participate in a youth empowerment symposium at Rancho Campagna for about 50 or 60 Oxnard Union High School District pupils, sponsored through Rotary. On April 18th, I participated in a Green Gen panel that was appropriately titled Road to Nowhere by a CSU senior, very talented CSUCI senior named Andrew Graves, but it was on public transit and electric vehicles. I thought the name of it was clever, but anyway, we had quite a good panel discussion on public transit. On that same day with Councilmember Kildee, I went on a tour of the desalter given to the Cayugas Municipal Water District Board, and thank you to Dave Klotzel and Ken Matsuoka and our consultants for leading that. On April 19th, with Councilmember Martinez Bravo, we had a Transportation Infrastructure Committee meeting. The issues included our zero-emission bus rollout program and transportation integration and efficiency study at VCTC. That evening was the volunteer recognition dinner, and just a shout out to our staff who organized that. I thought they did a great job. On April 20, again with Councilmember Martinez Bravo, the Citizen Appointment Committee, and I also had the privilege of attending Joseph Alexander's presentation that evening, a 100-year-old Holocaust survivor who survived many camps. I believe it was 12 or 13 camps. And I like your adjective of inspiring. What I was coming up with was sobering and powerful, but it was also inspiring to hear that gentleman, remarkable gentleman. I think Mr. Kildee was there as well, and I think Commander Tennyson, I know, was there, and I'm not sure if other council members were there. On April 21, I took a tour of ACE Charter School, which is out at the county airport. And I don't know if my colleagues have had a chance to tour ACE Charter School, but they have a 4-year pathway education in architecture, construction, engineering, and computer programming. And they are doing great work. And the students who are graduating out of that program are obtaining great jobs or going on to post-secondary education. So I have a pamphlet for anybody who wants it, and I would encourage you to take a tour. John Middleton is the principal of that school, and he's doing a great job. On April 21, let's see, we also had the Boys and Girls Club dinner, which I guess was April 22. And I know several of my colleagues were there. I think Councilmember Tennyson, I know, was there. Anyway, that was good. April 25th, I had a meeting at my monthly outreach meeting at Leisure Village, and I'm thankful to County Airport's staff, including Dave Naffey and Aaron Powers. That was on the Part 150 noise study and the airport layout plan process, which is currently in process. April 26th, today, a Utilities Committee meeting on the 2023 water and sewer rate study, and I want to thank Councilmember Martinez Bravo for her patience as we went through, and staff, and Mr. Uribe on a very, very long meeting, but you all are going to be hearing much more about that. that topic will be coming to us. Just two quick shout-outs. One is kudos to staff. It's great to pick up a Camarillo Acorn on Saturday morning and see pictures of our staff assisting on the graffiti abatement program. And so just a shout out to Catlin Carey, our code compliance manager, who I think headed up the effort, and Alonzo Ramirez, Monique Martinez, and Jamie Avila. If I missed anybody, I am really sorry. Those were the only pictures that I saw in there. But having that kind of volunteer spirit at city staff level is outstanding. So I really want to thank staff for heading that up. And then also, as Councilmember Martinez Bravo indicated, I just wanted to put a shout out on Administrative Professionals Day. We appreciate you very much, and that's it for me.
Mr. Kildee.
All right. April 25th, I attended along with Councilmember Tennyson, the Investment and Finance Committee. I also was at the tour with Councilmember Vice Mayor Tremblay at the Cayugas Water District tour of our outstanding desalter. And I'm going to leave it at this and say they were very impressed with what the facility there. It was a really great tour, and I thank Mr. Klotzel for setting that up and being there, and all the staff members at the desalter, too, that keep it running, and boy, is it running well. Okay, I also attended the talk of Joseph Alexander, the Holocaust survivor, and many have already said what I'll say, but I just want to make one comment. An incredible individual and 100 years old, and I didn't see any memory loss or any dementia or anything, no notes, and he spoke for quite a long time. So impressive individual in so many different ways here. I have a question of staff. There's if staff could go over off of Daily Drive, there's a bicycle that's chained to one of these signs, and it's been there for 6 weeks. I wonder if staff can go over. It looks abandoned to me. I was wondering if staff could go over there and take a look at that and see, what's going on with that. I'd appreciate if you could do that. That'd be great. And I want to also give compliments to our staff. They're the best, and they have been for a long time, and anything all of us can do to support them, we're all in. So with that, that's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, for meetings attended on April 19th, I attended Clean Power Alliance. On April 26th, this morning, I attended the CPA Finance Committee. With CPA, we are headed into budget season and rate-setting season, so there will be more to come from me on that. And also on April 19th, I attended the volunteer recognition dinner, so kudos to our staff for a wonderful event, and kudos to all our volunteers. And I just want to join in on the kudos for Administrative Professionals Day and thank everybody at the city for all they do for us. And I believe, Mr. Ramirez, you have some comments?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to give you a status update on the plans for Home Key Round 3.0 project funding. And as you know, it is long-term supportive housing, also known as bridge housing. Earlier this year, the city submitted a letter of interest to the Board of Supervisors requesting their partnership in funding. We were awarded funding, potential matching funding, for a site at the Days Inn is selected by staff. But due to uncertainty regarding long-term financial burden to the city and a decreased funding allocation from the state for Home Key 3.0, staff recommend it's no longer prudent to submit an application for that project. I do want to commend staff, especially Alonzo Ramirez, for doing an exceptional job in getting us in a position to be competitive. But again, just the uncertainty of the financial exposure to the city long-term is just too great to submit at this time. The city will instead allocate resources for expanding existing homeless assistance programs to provide much-needed services and housing for our most vulnerable individuals in town. That means we will extend and expand our hotel voucher program to provide additional short-term housing opportunities for the unhoused here in Camarillo. In addition, we will accelerate the process to develop a homeless strategic plan that focuses on prioritizing resources and locating emergency and transitional housing for homeless community in Camarillo. During the course of that process, we will actively engage with the community to develop best practices and strategies to provide the most effective and cost-efficient services. And lastly, the city will continue to explore creating affordable housing options, a number of different locations across the community, and the city remains committed to collaborating with all stakeholders to address the needs of our unhoused and vulnerable populations. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us down to our consent calendar. Are there any changes? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I'll move.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please vote. And that passes unanimously. Okay, that brings us down to our discussion items, and our first one is item N, and I believe we have Mark Uribe to present for us.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. This item is an ordinance rescinding urgency ordinance number 1172. On March 12, 2020, that was the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, the County of Ventura issued a declaration of local health emergency, and the City Council followed by adopting a resolution declaring a local health emergency in the city of Camarillo. Then on April 22nd of 2020, City Council adopted urgency ordinance number 1172 to waive penalties and interest on delinquent annual business tax payments. The ordinance states the waiver would last until 90 days following the end of the emergency resolution. The emergency resolution was rescinded effective February 28th of this year. Therefore, this ordinance to rescind urgency ordinance number 1172 is based on the 90-day provision contained in the urgency ordinance. The second reading and adoption, if this moves forward, the second reading and adoption of this ordinance is scheduled for May 10th City Council meeting and would go into effect 30 days following adoption or June 9th. And I think there's a typographical error in the agenda report that says would go into effect 90 days following adoption. But I think the mix-up was with the 90-day period built into the resolution. So it would go into effect 90 days following adoption of the, rescinding of the emergency resolution. So they tie together. June 9th is the date that this would become effective. I wanted also to clarify that the reinstitution of charging penalties and interest for delinquent annual business tax payments would be implemented proactively. That means if a payment becomes delinquent from now up until, anytime now up until June 8th, the day before it becomes effective, would not be charged penalties. Any payment that becomes delinquent beginning June 9th moving forward would then be charged the penalties. So that completes the brief presentation. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mark. Are there any questions?
I don't have any.
Any comments? Okay, what's the will?
Move the item. Oh, I guess, actually,
Request a title.
Oh, yes.
Thank you. Yes, Mayor and Council, this is ordinance number 2011, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Camarillo, California, rescinding ordinance number 1172, waiving penalties and interest for the annual tax on businesses due under Title 5, Chapter 5.04 of the Camarillo Municipal Code during the COVID-19 emergency. Thank you.
For the move to waive further reading and introduce the ordinance.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please vote. And that passes unanimously.
May I make a comment before we get off this one?
Of course.
I just want to say, I think during that pandemic that, in my personal opinion, this was very helpful to businesses in Camarillo, and I got several comments on that, thanking the city for doing this, that it was very helpful during a very, challenging time for many, many people, entities, and business. So I just want to make that comment.
Thank you. Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll move on to item O, which is the crosswalk at Paseo del Campo and Corte Espaldera. Jason Samante is going to present for us.
Oh, there it is. Okay. Sorry. Thank you. Mayor Santangelo, Vice Mayor Tremblay, council members Kildee, Martinez, Bravo, and Tennyson, fellow staff. My name is Jason Samani, and I'm the traffic engineer for Public Works. I'm here to present the proposed crosswalk at Paseo del Campo and Corte Espaldera, which is a private street. Just to get a bearing on the location, so this is Wood Creek Drive, this is Fieldcrest, and this is Mission Oaks Boulevard. This is the Mission Oaks Plaza, and this is the Tierra Linda Elementary School. So the existing situation now is that the school at one point had a student drop-off here, and what ended up happening was they placed these portables, and we were told that this is now the kindergarten classrooms. So the parents can no longer drive through here and drop off kids. At the same time, the school buses are dropping off here on the north side of Paseo del Campo, which leaves only the south side of the street for parents to park and drop off their children. In addition, we have the Avalon apartment complex here in the south, and there are plenty of children coming from here as well. Okay. So on our field observations, which we conducted in September of 2022, we observed 54 students crossing in the AM with 74 adults, and 37 students crossing in the PM with 52 adults. So all of the children were escorted by parents or guardians. And just to back up, the crossings were somewhat sporadic throughout here, and even though there isn't an accident history, the parents did approach us about their concerns of what's happening. So our proposal is to concentrate the crossings at one location, which is right here. This would be, Corte Espaldera. This is a continental or ladder-style crosswalk. And to go with that, we have these yield markings here, and also school crosswalk sign, pavement markings, as well as signs that would be installed. And because there is none existing now, we would have to install a handicap access ramp here for the crosswalk, and also bring these two access ramps up to code. In addition, we are also proposing to install what they call a rectangular rapid flashing beacon, which is also known as an RRFB. And this would be a pedestrian actuated device, solar powered and wireless. So if you push the button on one side, both the flashing beacons, which would be on either side of the street, would flash. And I have a video here. Hopefully this works. Do I click it? Oh. There you go.
In general, a safe place for pedestrians to cross the road is at a well-marked, controlled location, often at an intersection. But in 2018, 74% of pedestrian fatalities occurred at mid-block locations between intersections. So, how do we reduce fatalities at these locations and provide safe transportation for every pedestrian? Rectangular rapid flashing beacons, or RRFBs, can be an effective option. Driver yielding rates vary by location, but RRFBs can reduce pedestrian crashes by up to 47%.
A rectangular rapid flashing beacon is a pedestrian actuated device with yellow rectangular flashing lights to help bring attention to to a pedestrian using an uncontrolled marked crosswalk.
The goal is to alert drivers that a pedestrian is attempting to cross the street.
The main reason it enhances safety is by increasing the visibility of the pedestrian. And when motorists yield, then typically we see a lot fewer pedestrian crashes, which is the whole reason that we do the crosswalk as well as the rapid flashing beacon.
RRFBs can improve driver yielding rates, which results in a safer crossing for pedestrians. They are most effective when installed in line with existing pedestrian travel behavior.
It's at a mid-block location, and we've found success in being able to provide safety treatments at the locations where the pedestrians are already crossing.
For maximum safety, RRFBs should be used in combination with other low-cost safety treatments.
We typically deploy them with other enhancements to increase visibility. So additional signing, we'll do additional pavement markings such as an advanced yield marking or advanced stop marking, as well as a pedestrian refuge island if the location calls for it. Additional enforcement or education is often part of that as well.
We've also found, if possible, to install street lighting at the curb sides of the approach and departure sides for the pedestrian, and it just adds, again, additional guidance so that pedestrians could be seen.
RRFBs offer a flexible, effective tool to enhance pedestrian safety.
So the RRFB being relatively cheap, being relatively easy to install, easy to maintain, low cost, little if any right-of-way or utility adjustments are normally required. So it's a treatment that can be delivered very quickly and to fill that need.
Contact FHWA for more information on using RRFBs and other measures to provide safe transportation for every pedestrian.
Okay, well, and I'd like to mention that we also, I contacted the Pleasant Valley School District, and they're in full support of this. So I'm here to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you. Are there questions? Mr. Kildee?
Yes. As far as the maintenance, I think I know the answer, but I still want to ask the question. As far as the maintenance of this, will we maintain this throughout the life of this as well?
Yes, we will.
Is there much maintenance to them? As you know, it's relatively new. However, are you aware of any unusual maintenance patterns on this, or is this kind of general overall maintenance?
I have discussed with other cities their maintenance, and so far, occasional button failing or needing to be adjusted is about all that really, or maybe the solar panels also needing to be cleaned.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I can't think of anything else. The flashing beacons are actually LED, so those lights should last for years.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
I think this is a really good idea, but I just want to remind everybody to be vigilant when you're ever crossing any street. Specifically, we're talking about this one, but any other street, just make sure that you remain vigilant and aware of the surroundings here. So I want to make that comment.
Any other comments? Okay.
As a mother of 3 children at 3 different public schools here in Camarillo, I'm definitely in support of this, and I think that public safety, the safety of pedestrians crossing is definitely a priority. I see, unsafe behaviors every single day, so anything that we can do on behalf of the city to mitigate some of that is definitely helpful, so I'm in full support. Thank you.
Is there a motion?
I will move.
Second. Staff recommendation.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please vote. And that passes unanimously. All right, that will bring us down to item P, which is the awarding of the custodial services. And I believe we're going to open sanitation back up. Mr. Kildee,
I'm sorry.
you want to open?
Oh, I'm sorry. Zoning out. I'll reopen the Camarillo Sanitary District meeting, please.
Okay, and John Thomas, we have a report from you.
Yes. Good evening, Your Honor, and members of the City Council. I'm John Thomas, Assistant Director of Administrative Services. The item before you tonight is the award of custodial services to Fame Systems, Inc. I'd like to begin with a quick background on this award. In May of 2021, the City Council, along with the CSD, awarded a 3-year custodial services agreement for city and district facilities to Omni Enterprises. The agreement began July of 2021 and was to terminate in June of 2024. The facilities included City Hall, Corporation Yard, Camarillo Public Library, Camarillo Ranch House, the old courthouse, and the water reclamation plant. Unfortunately, Omni failed to provide adequate supervision, service, equipment, and supplies to perform the duties of their agreement, and in August of 2022, the council approved the early termination of Omni's agreement and authorized staff to enter into a temporary 6-month agreement through April of 2023 with the next lowest bidder. This temporary 6-month agreement allowed staff to prepare a notice inviting bids for a new multi-year custodial agreement. In January of this year, staff solicited and posted a notice inviting bids for custodial services, resulting in 5 bids being received for consideration. It is important to note that custodial services are not public works projects. Rather, it is a general service maintenance contract and requires the city to look at criteria outside the lowest price in making its determination in which contractor to select. Staff reviewed the bids, which were evaluated based on each bidder's ability to respond and meet the following weighted criteria: having an established client presence in Ventura County, weighted at 35%, employee relations, benefits, and incentives, weighted at 30%, costs and hours, rated at 25%, and overall bid proposal, rated at 10%. These criteria were developed to ensure the selection of a custodial company with good employment practices and regional supervision with a proven background to provide quality services through the term of the agreement and to avoid future early contract terminations. After a thorough review and ranking of all 5 bids, staff found that 2 lowest bids also proposed the fewest monthly hours, while the other 3 bids were more in line with the number of hours staff expected for the desired increase in level of service. These 3 bids also provided similar hours for quarterly cleaning, as well as similar total 5-year costs. Fame Systems, Inc. is found to have the most responsive bid proposal. Fame ranked the highest of all proposals in having an established local client presence, as they currently provide custodial services to many large facilities in Ventura County, with several accounts being served for over 20 years and some over 30 years. Fame also ranked highest in the employee incentives and benefits. Fame offers many of their positions full-time employment, which includes health and retirement benefits. This criterion was added due to past custodial issues with employee retention and morale, which impacted the consistency and quality of service provided to the city. The number of monthly hours in Fame's bid is higher than in past agreements, but allows for the improved level of service in the nightly cleaning. Staff found Fame's proposal monthly hours and cost per hour for each facility appropriate to perform the requirements of the agreement. The custodial needs of the city are diverse and range from chemical labs at our wastewater treatment plant to a state-of-the-art library with all of its high-end amenities, from the wedding and banquet venue of the Camarillo Ranch House to the city's fleet yard with all of its many operations, as well as professional office space. Overall, Fame ranked the highest in demonstrating their ability, capacity, and skills to fulfill the requirements and scope of the agreement. The city did receive a bid protest letter from one of the bidders, and both the protest letter and the city's response is included in the agenda packet. After a 1-month delay to review and respond to the protest, staff now recommends the council authorize city and district manager to execute CCCSD agreement number 2023-18 with Fame Systems, Inc. in the amount of $1,828,559 and approve a contingency amount up to $91,428. And secondly, authorize city and district manager to execute amendments and change orders up to $91,428 for a total not to exceed amount of $1,919,987. This concludes my presentation, and I'll remain available for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Are there questions? Mr. Kildee.
Yeah, Mr. Thomas, just want to make sure that I understand correctly. This is a 4-year contract, is that correct?
It is a 4-year and 2-month contract. So it spans over 5 fiscal years, so that's where the 5 came from, but it's a 4-year with 2 months.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we do have a public comment. Thank you. Jim Ferraro. Mr. Ferraro and anybody else who speaks, you'll have 3 minutes to speak. You'll see the timer. You'll hear a beep at the end of 2 minutes, and the timer will turn yellow, but you get to keep talking until it turns red.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, fellow council members. My name is Jim Ferraro. I'm the owner of Executive Facility Services. I'm a resident of Ventura County and a resident of California for over 30 years. My background includes an undergraduate degree in accounting, and also I've earned my MBA, 20 years of corporate experience, and 19-plus years in the janitorial industry. In 2022, I purchased commercial property in the city of Camarillo after completing a very thorough due diligence. Why Camarillo, you might wonder, why you might wonder Camarillo, while I'm already under contract with the City of Thousand Oaks, the City of Agoura Hills, City of Oxnard, City of Palmdale, just to name a few. I chose Camarillo because of your 2023-24 strategic plan. Goal number 1 is the goal of the council to maintain sound and conservative financial practices to endure the fiscal sustainability of the city. I apologize. And goal number 5 of the city council is to provide cost-effective, efficient services to the public while minimizing the impact. Last week, I did forward to you a great deal of information related to this bid, AS 2022.9, including our proposal, our competitors' proposals, and the evaluations, but I'm not here to talk about that tonight. I'm here to ask you a one-word question 3 times. Why in 2020, AS 14, did the city only choose or only select the lowest cost proposal and then have to reverse their decision-making? It sounds basically like they made a poor decision. Currently, you have a contract in excess of $1.8 million, and the bid submitted by my companies is $604,000 less over 5 years than the one that you're being recommended tonight. And this is coming from a company that's been in business for 19 years, has over 100 employees here in Ventura County, services 1.7 million square feet per night, and we're commercial owners in this market. My second question is, why wasn't a thorough due diligence performed, as they said they would do in the RFP? We were required to turn in references. We turned in 4 required references, 10 additional references, and only 1 reference was contacted via telephone. It was also stated in the RFP that city representatives would visit other city sites, similar use buildings, and yet the city representatives did nothing of the sort. So I'm asking, if you're going to do diligence on a $1.8 million contract, do your job. And that didn't take place here. A $604,000 difference between our contract, our proposal, which you have in your hands, versus the one that you're being recommended to award to, for a company that's been in business for 19 years, it doesn't make sense to me. I mean, I've been trying to get an answer from the city representatives, and I've gotten nowhere with it. So in 19 years, I've never filed a protest. This is my very first one because I live in Ventura, I own in Camarillo, and seeing that we're the most cost-effective provider, and then us basically being treated unprofessionally and inconsistently, brought me here this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ferraro. All right. Would anybody else like to speak to the council? All right. Are there comments from council members? What's the will of the council?
I'll make a comment in my opinion. I think staff did do a due diligence on this. They do have a very significant amount of criteria that they've used. There's a long and process on getting to where we are tonight here, and also that because this is we're not by law having to take the low bidder on this, and in my opinion, I think you get what you pay for oftentimes, and I think although this bid is higher, I think the level of service is going to be really good, and they're highly regarded. So with that, I will support this.
there any other comments?
I'll move the recommended action.
I will second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Please vote. And that passes unanimously as well. Okay. Mr. Kildee, do you want to adjourn
Yes.
sanitary?
Do we need to make a motion? Let's make a motion on the sanitary district on item F. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move the approval.
Okay.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion, please vote. That passes unanimously. Okay. Am I able to adjourn this meeting now? Okay, with that, we'll adjourn the Sand District and the Special District meeting.
All right. Okay, that brings us down to our public hearings. Item Q is next, and that's adopting the resolution on the $5 assessment. And we have Dave Klotzel.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and City Council. A brief report on this annual exercise. This item is a public hearing to authorize the Ventura County Watershed Protection District to continue to collect a $5 assessment per benefit assessment unit from Camarillo parcels next fiscal year. The assessment goes towards covering some of the costs to comply with the city's NPDES stormwater permit. The city is a co-permittee to the NPDES permit, along with the other 9 cities in the county and the watershed district, all collaborating under a stormwater permit implementation agreement to achieve permit compliance. Since its inception in 1994, the city's stormwater program has been partially funded by this benefit assessment collected by the district via the property tax roll. The implementation agreement provides that the city will annually request the amount to be included for city purposes in the benefit assessment program, which requires this public hearing to be held prior to making the request. A benefit assessment unit, or BAU, is equal to a single detached housing unit, and the number of BAUs in Camarillo for next fiscal year will be approximately 31,534 units, which is very similar to last fiscal year. The $5 assessment per BAU is expected to generate just under $158,000 for Camarillo next fiscal year. These funds will partially offset the city's $1.7 million stormwater program costs, with the remainder covered by the general fund. The stormwater program costs and revenue from this assessment will be reflected in the city's budget for next fiscal year. And that concludes my report, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Klotzel. Do we have any questions?
I don't have any.
Okay.
Move staff recommendation.
This is a public hearing.
Oh,
Public
Stand
hearing.
by.
I'm jumping the gun.
I appreciate that. This is a public hearing, so I will open it now for public comment. Would anybody like to address the council? Hearing no one come forward, I will close the public hearing.
Okay.
Now you're up.
Recommendation. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please vote. And that passes unanimously. Okay, this brings us right down to item R, which is the tentative track map for Camarillo Village Square. This is also a public hearing, and we have Paul McLaren.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. So tonight I bring tentative track map T6080 before you. So this is Camarillo Village Square. All of us are probably very familiar with it. The site is at the southeast corner of Las Posas Road and Arnila Road. It's an existing commercial shopping center, and the owner of the property is proposing to divide the property into 8 lots, which will entail no physical change or effect on existing buildings. So just to make sure that this is clear, because there was some confusion at the Planning Commission hearing, is that this is not a condominium subdivision. So it's not dividing the buildings themselves. It's actually the entire lot that will be divided up, and each lot will have some parking, some sidewalks, and that sort of thing. So this is the proposed project as you're looking from above Las Posas Drive to the south. So for the purposes of lease, sale, conveyance, refinancing. The proposed project is to subdivide the existing parcel map into a tract map. The proposed tract map will create 8 lots of varying sizes totaling 22.45 acres, and the proposed map will result in no effect to the existing buildings or improvements. The property is currently served by existing roadways, access drives, water lines, sewer lines, and drainage facilities. So this is the existing parcel layout. It's actually 3 parcels that are here. We have parcel 1 on the far right, parcel 2 is in the middle, and then I'm sorry, but something happened to the square, but that yellow square should have been over the black lines to the left, because that is parcel 4. It's numbered like that because this was all done at different times and dates, and so the parcels have different numbering systems. So the proposed tract map, I kind of did this because also I think it adds a little bit of clarity, but this would be the new parcel 1. And when I'm talking about these, what the staff has done is we evaluated this to make sure that this parcel actually meets the requirements of the CPD zone for lot width, lot depth, and also that the buildings that are currently in the lots will also meet all the required setbacks of the CPD zone. And so then this would be lot 2, lot 3, lot 4, lot 5, lot 6, lot 7, and then lot 8 has already been created because of all the other lines, but there is lot 8. So this has been reviewed in accordance with the CEQA, both the state guidelines and our guidelines. The project's categorically exempt under category 1 or class 1 exemption because this actually proposes no expansion to the current or existing uses. And because there's no physical change, the project is also exempt under the common sense exemption, which applies to projects which have no potential for causing a significant environmental impact. So the suggested action is to find the project categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act and to adopt a resolution approving tentative tract 6080 subject to the recommended conditions of approval. And then just one last thing I guess I should have made clear is that the property owner and the conditions also, they will include the formation of a commercial owners association. That commercial owners association will provide funding in order to do maintenance upkeep, so that even if the property did sell to individual people, they all will be contributing into that commercial owners association. So funding will be there, and there will also be maintenance requirements that the commercial owners association will handle for the property in general. And then each individual property owner will be then responsible for basically the inside of their units. Everything else will be taken care of by the commercial owners association. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Mr. Kildee.
Yeah. Thanks, Paul. I want to reveal that I am a leasee at a shopping center in Camarillo, not this one, but I have some questions pertinent to, I think, those that do lease at this particular venue here. You did speak a little bit about this, but there's what they call CAM charges here, and that's the maintenance specifically of the shopping center. Usually that's pooled, by the tenants there, and they basically pay for most, if not all, of the maintenance. If in fact this does get approved, will it still be maintained to the level that it is today? And I ask that because I believe it was approved, believe it or not, I believe in 1962. So this is an older center that's had several iterations throughout the years on this, but it is well maintained now. And I'm not really familiar on this process in Camarillo. I've heard that it's happened in other cities to a certain extent, but in Camarillo, this is fairly unique. So in your experience, will that be maintained to the level that it is that we can expect in Camarillo?
Yeah, so this was very important to us, which is why the conditions of approval that we included did include the creation of the Commercial Owners Association. And we actually also identified that there are currently some maintenance issues that we've already had a meeting with the current owner on to get those fixed before this final tract map, the final tract map for this comes before you. So that when this property does have its final tract map done, the property is going to be basically back to 100%, and then we have a strong commitment. We believe that the conditions of approval that we included will keep the maintenance up so that we don't have any maintenance problems and the center will continue to look nice. And we also have a strong commitment from the applicant to do that as well. They are here tonight to talk to you about that and can also answer any additional questions you may have about that.
I have one just follow-up, and it may not be in your purview, but will that mean that there may be an increased cost in the tenants there to maintain the level? In your experience, if in fact this is approved, after this is approved, does the cost pretty much remain as what they expect and appreciate now, or does it change to a certain extent?
Yeah, that I think I best leave to the applicant themselves. My experience, honestly, with projects like this is that they've always been commercial condominium associations, which then I believe the maintenance just tends to be a little easier when it comes to the actual commercial condominiums. But I think that the applicant will be able to discuss better what their finances are when it comes to the tenants.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from council members? Mr. Tremblay.
Thanks, Paul, for your presentation. So going back to the conditions, I think what I'm focused on is how do those conditions assure sufficient funding for a high level of maintenance? In other words, for example, is there a minimum amount of funding? I understand the creation of the COA, but I'm focused on adequate funding within that COA to ensure a high level of maintenance. Or conversely, are there conditions to staff satisfaction that apply to all 8 parcels that require specific maintenance standards to be kept in place? Hope I'm articulating this correctly.
I believe I understand,
Okay.
Vice Mayor Tremblay. So the staff kind of took the approach that by the condition requiring that the Commercial Owners Association and the CC&Rs that would be created as part of a Commercial Owners Association, that they would have to be reviewed by both staff and city attorney's office to make sure that all of those items are covered within it. We would want to see what, included in their budget, what they think that the costs or fees are going to be. And so that would be part of the review as this association is created. The documents would be created, and all those documents would have to be done prior to final approval, bringing the final map back for your approval, for the council's approval. So we'll make sure that with the staff and the city attorney's office, we're going to work with the applicant to make sure that all of those things are adequately addressed, to make sure that we can keep the shopping center looking to the standards that Camarillo likes to see in our facilities.
So we have one more step to go. Assuming we approve this tonight, then we have an additional step to go.
Yes, there's still
assure
the
that would
additional
occur.
step, which is the final map.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if there are no more questions from council, this is a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing. And I have a comment card from Aaron Sloan.
Madam Mayor and City Council, it's been a long time since I've been in front of a City Council meeting, and I feel strongly about this project. I'm going to read off notes. Actually, I got to put on the glasses, but I've had the pleasure of living behind this shopping center for 25 years. It is a unique shopping center. I challenge anybody in this room to find another city or anywhere else in this county that has everything from doctor's offices, dentists, grocery store, pharmacy, AAA, clothing stores, multiple health gyms, child care, dance studio, fast food, a Starbucks, fantastic restaurants, and much, much more. It is unique. It is a beautiful shopping center, and I've appreciated, and my family has appreciated, as our community has appreciated, its location and everything that it offers. And again, nothing like it. Also, there's been no vacancies. There's been very few. And that's another thing you like to see. You like to see it full. Seeing that and seeing it consistently occupied, seeing the maintenance that's happened has been wonderful, and seeing it continue to be a beautiful shopping center. Now my concern is it's relatively recently purchased. From what I understand, the person who currently owns it is a more recent owner that does not live in the area, does not live in the Ventura County area. They are an off-site, out-of-state owner. This concerns me because subdividing this property could irreparably harm what we've enjoyed being created over these few years. This is something that I actually believe we should take further consideration. Separate ownerships could create inconsistencies in appearance, although it sounds like it's being addressed. Separate ownership could have maintenance problems. Separate ownership could also mean challenges with other owners of the property. Separate owners could create different rents and different leases. If you think about it, somebody from out of state has every reason to subdivide this property so they can get different owners and probably increase the property value, thus increasing rents, thus increasing leases, thus making it challenging for our local small businesses to continue residing and keeping the center fully occupied and beautiful the way we've expected it. I think there's a challenge there, and unfortunately, I don't see more people here that I don't think they understand what this means. And as was just mentioned, and Mr. Kildee, I really appreciate your comment, this is something unique to the city of Camarillo. And before you impose a vote this evening, I'd ask that you really think about what we're saying tonight. What I'm saying this evening is, will this harm? What will happen in 5 years? Will we price people out of this property? Will the property really be maintained the way it is today? I ask you to do that so we can ensure that we can continue to enjoy this shopping center, because it is a unique treasure to both me, my community, and to the city. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to address the council? Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. I'm Brett Bernard. I'm Vice President of Development and Planning for Lawn Capital Management. We are the managers of the center, former owners of the center. We are the ones that are processing this application. In the audience with me tonight is Rashid Safi. He's a civil engineer with CC&E, a local engineering firm. And at the Planning Commission, his principal was here with us, Randy Chapman. He could not participate tonight because he was at another public hearing. I have no formal presentation. I would make myself available for questions, but I will respond to a couple points that have just been made, if you allow me to. And I did not fill out a speaker's slip. I will be happy to do so because of the Planning Commission. They didn't ask us to do that, so be happy to do that afterwards. Before I get into responses, I would like to thank Paul McLaren and his staff for their help and assistance along the way. Been very helpful. We appreciate that. Going to a couple of the comments that were made. First, Council Member Kildee. Thank you for your observations. With the COA, Commercial Owners Association, that does help ensure, as we explained to the Planning Commission, it actually adds another layer of responsibility and insurance that the center will be maintained. And as Paul touched upon, thank you for the kind words, especially to our neighbor, for complimenting us on how well the center's been maintained and has looked over the years. We think it can look even better, and Paul noticed that and helped with that too. So we actually are undergoing an upgrade to the appearance of the center, including landscaping, making them more zero tolerant, but also just generally making it look nicer than it is already. The level of maintenance, so then Councilman Kildee, will be not only as it is now, but will probably be better than it has been in the past. And that includes, you recognized before, your staff for participating in the graffiti. We've had graffiti incidents there in the past. We've met on site not only with Paul, but also code enforcement staff. We had a productive meeting there with them, and they actually let us know that In the past, we've just taken that upon ourselves, and they indicated we'd be as well served as reporting any time we have graffiti incidents there to the Sheriff's Department, who locally police the center, so that that's recorded going forward in case they do catch someone. So we're going to start doing that as well. Councilman Kildee also mentioned that this is probably a unique circumstance.
Sorry.
If you have questions, I'll be happy to respond.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Kildee.
I have a question, if you don't mind. So, again, I can only surmise one of the reasons for wanting to, if you will, split these up. Could it be a situation, and I'm just hypothetical here, that let's say a bank comes in and the bank actually owns the building and they lease the property from you. Would that be part of one of the things that may be able to happen here? Let's say if you have somebody that comes in and wants to buy actually that section, lock, stock, and barrel, and this would allow them to do that? I'm trying to get the timeline as to why this is beneficial or not.
It's beneficial, obviously, for the property owner. And I was going to say thank you for the question. Allow me to continue answering the former questions. And I'll try and be as focused on that aspect as possible. Hopefully someone else will ask a question of me so I can continue answering, especially Mr. Sloan's points. It's, I guess, unique or somewhat unique to the city of Camarillo, this process. It's by no means unique throughout commercial centers. Our company has owned, and we owned this center until we just sold it recently, centers throughout Ventura County. We own Tuscany Square up in Moore Park, so we've done this there as well. It's a fine, as Paul indicated in his slides, it's a mechanism to allow for additional funding and infusion of monies into the system. It would provide for, right now the owner is a single owner. He may be out of state, but he has a local presence. We will, our company will continue to represent and maintain the property. But it does allow for that. There is a possibility in the future, not anticipated now, that there could be one or two or additional owners up to 8. As I started to say before the red light went off, it actually adds a level of insurance to make sure that maintenance is maintained and the center is maintained. In that, not only are we responsible to the conditions that are included within this resolution, the original permitting document that requires maintenance, but any future owners would be required to do that too. Either singly or en masse, in that with the Commercial Owners Association, they are one entity. They answer to the city. They do have responsibilities if they have separated into the 8 areas, but they are forced by these conditions and by the CC&Rs to maintain it to the level that it is, both in the CC&Rs that the city will be adopted, but also by the conditions of approval that require the maintenance of the site. So actually, this with that COA, it actually has a responsibility level beyond what's currently there now with a single, has traditionally been a single owner. Okay. And there would not be, with that, the charges would not be necessarily additional. They would not go up from what it is now. They would pay into they would be required to pay into a maintenance fund. That's part of the CC&R and COA system. It is, as I believe Mr. Sloan hit upon, or maybe it was Councilman Tremblay, it is a system of the maintenance fund that is there. It's typically done by CAMS. So even with the 8 separate owners, you still have responsibilities in terms of, generally it's based upon square footages. So if I have a larger parcel, my responsibility to pay into the general maintenance fund is higher. That comes out of what the agreement is with the CC&Rs.
Okay. Just a real, I think you can appreciate, my questions on this. I mean, we have worked really, really hard for many, many years on this center to get it really working well. And in my opinion, it's working as well now as it has perhaps even since inception. I just want to make sure that whatever we do, that we can protect the tenants there with their cost structure. And this isn't necessarily in your purview here, it's just a comment with me, but I want to make sure that whatever happens tonight, that we're reasonable as with the cost here. We just want it to be reasonable.
We hear that. Although we have, as I indicated, recently sold the center, just having bought it 2 years ago, I think we appreciate what you've said. We think, done a good job of upgrading the center from what it has always been, an ice center, and we think it can be better, and that's working with Paul and his staff. We're making it so. We are proud of the, I think 35 centers that we own, in addition to other types of development, apartments and raw land. We own about 20 of those 33 centers that we manage, and most are looked upon as jewels in each of those cities' crowns. And so we take pride in having it look that way. Certainly we would not have sold it without making sure that whoever was going to buy it was going to maintain it to what your standards are and what our standards are as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions or?
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, I just have a question. Mr. Sloan brought up some good points, and I was just wondering if you would be, I think there were some that you wanted to address, and I wanted to hear your input on that.
Well, thank you. I was going to, but my time ran out. Thank you for that, Councilman Martinez Bravo. We hear, especially, I was actually very pleased when he stood up. We did not see him at the Planning Commission. When you have a neighbor come, especially for a commercial center, you're always worried that, hey, how well are the tenants, is the center doing with our community that surrounds us? You know, noise, lights, and all that. So I'm happy to hear that he didn't have outstanding concerns for that. So thank you for that. But I do appreciate where he's coming from. It is a beautiful center. We think it's going to be even better looking with the maintenance that we're upgrading. Landscaping is going to be supplemented far beyond what it is now. It really is not up to standard. It shouldn't be for us, and certainly not up to staff standards, nor should it be to your standards. We think it's going to look a lot better. It is a beautiful center. We do have, as Mr. Sloan indicated, a very low level. I think we have 3% vacancy right now. To his concern, with an out-of-state owner, we are still managing it. We're an in-state entity. We have offices in Ventura County. Our property maintenance person for this center lives within 15 miles of this location. So we do have a local presence, as does the new owner. Of course, we are concerned, now I'm speaking for old ownership and new ownership, of course we're concerned with vacancies. As Mr. Sloan is, we don't want to have vacancies there, and that goes to the question of, as he brought up, rents and leases. It's a market system. It's an open market system. We have to balance, the tenants' needs, the community's needs, so we want to serve the community. Thank you for appreciating the varied presence that is there. Really is as widespread a presence of different types of services and commercial entities as I've ever been involved with. But of course, that's market-driven. So we and the new owner have no intent to raise rents or leases, but with time, those leases and rents will either go up or go down. With COVID, obviously, we had to renegotiate a lot of rents. They actually went down. To the benefit of the bricks and mortar tenants that are there. So that's going to be a system going forward of if a tenancy comes up for renewal, that would be a market driven in terms of what hopefully we'd like to keep those tenants there or changing out for a better tenant. But in terms of the rents and leases, we want it to be fully occupied. The owner wants it to be fully occupied. So we're going to do all we can, A, to make it look nice so that the community, the patrons, will be there to shop, and B, that it looks nice so that our neighbors want to be there and shop. And also it's a place that the tenants want to be there, pay the money to be there and have a presence and sell their wares. So this process does not affect, this attentive track process does not affect really the leasing system, it just creates actually more opportunities for entities to actually invest in themselves. One of those tenants may want to purchase one of those 8 created parcels, tracts, but they would still have, then they would have more say in the COA and the operations of the center. I think that answered most of your questions. If not, please. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, do we have any other questions? I think
Thank
that
you very
does it.
much.
Thank you. All right, would anybody else like to speak to the council on this matter? Okay, if not, I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back to the council for comments or questions. Sure.
Paul, can you come back up for a minute? In looking at the project conditions and the conditions of approval, the CC&Rs for the COA are, the project conditions, they're nonspecific. And my question to you was, I'm sure there are expectations by the city staff of what specific provisions must be included in the CC&Rs. Am I correct in thinking that those specific provisions are contained in the conditions of approval? The CD portion?
Yes, yes, yes. The conditions, basically, any of the maintenance conditions that are in the conditions of approval will be something that we ask to be included in the CC&Rs. We've also, I believe, we included the condition also that if the CC&Rs, because oftentimes people update CC&Rs, that they have to also, in updating their CC&Rs, would have to have those reviewed by the city as well, so that we can, again, continue to make sure that the CC&Rs and that the COA continues to operate to maintain this facility in perpetuity in the way, in the manner in which the city of Camarillo would expect for the center to be maintained. So yes, what you're looking at is, we do public works conditions, and they're the ones that are also requiring conditions of approval in order to make sure that the infrastructure itself is also maintained. So there is a lot of infrastructure on the property itself. That includes the, utilities, the roads, that sort of thing. And so the first condition that you're seeing related to the CC&Rs is probably the public works condition related to the utilities and access and everything like that that's on the property. And then within the CD conditions of approval, most of those conditions, the ones that are related to maintenance, will be the ones that get actually included in the CC&Rs, along with a lot of others, just the same kind of conditions that we're looking for on any even HOA or COA CC&Rs.
Well, can I continue? Okay, so, right, the ones that are in the conditions of approval include conditions with respect to fire protection, landscaping, parking/access, and then general conditions, and then also some financial security requirements, and then special conditions, including condition number 38, which is that prior to recordation of a final map, presumably.
Right.
The COA and the CC&Rs have to be submitted for review and approved by the city attorney and the director of community development and the director of public works. So those individuals would have to review and approve that. And that's all going to be done prior to it coming back to us as a second step.
Correct.
Okay. And my last question is with respect, it goes back to what I asked before, and that is with respect to the funding to ensure that there's sufficient funding in a COA to ensure, in turn, that these conditions can be met. How is that drafted, and how is that set forth in the CC&Rs?
I don't really, I think that the city attorney might actually be able to answer this one better than me.
It's just, it's non-specific in here, and I'm not criticizing it, I'm just trying to make sure I understand mechanically how that's going to occur.
Yeah,
Would you like me to?
Yes, please. Thanks.
So, the city does not get into the details about how they're going to finance it. Our responsibility, as described in the conditions, is here's the standard, and this is what we require. It's up to them to then make sure they meet those requirements. How they determine to finance that would be on their business operations. But we are holding them accountable to have those levels.
Okay, and that's can I just find, and that's assured then by having the CCNRs recorded against all 8 parcels.
Right, so then we can take actions, code enforcement actions and things like that for violating those provisions.
Okay.
And as, Brett pointed out, we can also, when it comes to the code compliance actions, we can take code compliance actions against both the COA and the actual individual property owner as well, so that we can actually get both of them on board, because they're both ultimately responsible for each individual property, and then the COA will be responsible for all the properties as a whole, so we could actually go after both of them when it comes to compliance issues.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Are there any other comments? Mr. Kildee?
I have a comment. I've asked you a lot of questions, and I'm just going to make a comment here, and it's really a little bit out of my purvey to do this, but my hope is that the fees will remain reasonable here, and the maintenance of this shopping center will remain at a high level. I think I've been encouraged by the comments on this here. It is a change. It's a change in the center, and anytime there's a change, there's always a lot of very pertinent answers that need to be not only asked but answered too. So I've had experience where there's been a shopping center owned by different individuals, and they can never get to an agreement on whether or not this actually needed to be fixed or not. So I'm assured tonight that that's not necessarily going to be in this particular situation with the advent of the COA and whatnot, that there's going to be a fund that's going to cover these costs. Is that a reasonable assessment?
Absolutely, and certainly staff completely shares your concerns. I'm also a resident of Camarillo, and I've also had to deal with some shopping centers, even in Camarillo, that we have this situation where a COA wasn't established and it's multiple owners, and that has become a problem, and the fact that we don't have that COA makes it even more difficult for staff to deal with maintenance issues on some of these other centers. So it was of prime concern to staff, and it was included in a lot of the discussions with the applicants, that this is very important to us and the city and the staff and everybody, that this be maintained in the manner in which we've all become accustomed. So it's important to all of us.
Thank you for those comments. That's all I have.
Okay. Any other comments? Nope. Okay, what's the will of the council?
I'll move the staff recommendation.
We have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Please vote. And that passes unanimously. All right. So that brings us down to the end of our agenda, except for general public comments. So these would be public comments for items that are not on the agenda. I don't have any speaker cards, but would anybody like to speak? Here it comes. And thank you for waiting. We got a little delayed. Thank you. Okay, the first person is Connie Hall.
Okay, stand here. I'm going to read her letter for her.
That's fine.
And hold my own personal.
That's fine.
Can you move the microphone just a little closer? Thank you.
There you go. All right, so she has copies of this for you as well. My parents are living in Camarillo in a home that has been in our family since I was an infant. Originally, it was owned by great-grandparents. Right now, it's owned by my parents. Last January, it started even before that. November, December, my father was wanting to build a wall on the side of their property. Their property butts up against a very busy street. they had a 4-foot wrought iron gate separating their backyard from the street. It's always been a safety issue, always been a concern. So they wanted to put up a block wall. Starting back in November, they've been working with the city to understand what do they need to do from a permitting perspective, and have been giving the runaround ever since. So based on her letter, just what I wanted to say is they've worked hard their whole life. They're now in the city of Camarillo is threatening to foreclose on their home for a stupid wall that was built that the city told them did not need permits. Not once, but twice. They spent $50,000 building this wall to house off the side yard of the house. It's a safety issue in their neighborhood, always has been. They've had prowlers in the backyard trying to run from the cops, all kinds of stuff. After checking with the city repeatedly, they were told that they did not need permits. They went ahead and built the wall with a licensed contractor, followed the letter. They have come into the city with drawings, again, told they don't need permits. Now the city had the guts to go throw a public nuisance sign up in their yard last Friday without even informing them. The home is their retirement. This is what they have. They took a huge chunk of money out of their accounts to build this wall and finish off their home for safety and everything else. They do not, she doesn't know how she's gotten to this point. She's been struggling with the city, trying to understand what's going on. She's come in, requested help from the city after they told them to take down the wall. She's gotten nothing but the runaround from the permitting boards, to the point where I've met her for lunch and she's in tears because the gentlemen at the counters are intimidating her. It's bullying and nonsense. They're refusing to give them the information that they need. All they're telling them is take down the $50,000 wall that they built with no proof as to why, after the city told them it was okay to do. Not once, but twice. So at this point, they're just wanting to make sure that you guys understand what's going on, and they're here to ask for help, because this is insane. They can't tear down a $50,000 wall. It's so bad, my dad had a massive health scare, major heart attack in the middle of the build. We're having to hold this from him.
Thank you for your
Would you
comments.
like a copy of this? Did you already give it to him?
We've got
Okay.
the letters. Thank you. Philip Hall.
Good evening, Council. I'm Philip Hall Jr. I'm an attorney, have been for 20 years. I'm an attorney that does public agency work because of this very room. I grew up in Camarillo. This is my hometown. I decided to become an attorney to do public agency work because of this. I'm currently a deputy county counsel in Kern County, and my job is public nuisances, land use, public easements, everything that we're talking about now, building inspection permits. My father got this, came in to get a permit on 2 separate occasions, built his wall after being told specifically, you may build your wall right here. The city then told him to tear it down after he built it, and 2 of your employees argued in front of him over whether or not there was an easement. At this point in time, the city then fines my parents, and I'm brought into this. I didn't even know they were building the wall, but they would have asked me, obviously, as somebody who does this. But I'm living in Kern County at this point, soon to come back to Camarillo, but currently in Kern County. I get involved. I call your staff. Your staff member who sent out the notice saying it's a citation, he proceeds to tell me that the rule for this is the Subdivision Map Act. Has nothing at all to do with this. We seek an appeal. We seek a meeting with the city manager. A meeting was supposed to be set up last May for me to come down from Kern County to have this meeting. Never happened. City manager didn't meet with me. I have asked repeatedly. There have been appeals done on your citations asking for proof of this supposed easement that exists. It's never been provided. Never. If there is an easement, I want to see it. But we were told, my father was told he could build this wall where he did, and he has. And what is really troubling about this is when you look at this property, you'll notice that this wall lines up with all 4 other homes on that street. It is where motorhomes have been, Other walls have been, citrus trees have been. This is not some easement area. If it was an easement area, it's been abandoned long ago. I have talked to, not your city attorney sitting here, but another city attorney. He seemed to think it was kind of a joke. I specifically asked him, provide me the easement, gave him potential solutions that we could work through to solve whatever concerns you have, but didn't want to engage, said he would get back to me. This is what we got is now this nuisance letter. Still haven't seen any easement documents. None of that should have occurred. If there's an easement document, he should have been providing it to me. What really bothers me most of all of this right now is in my conversations with him, I said we were going to want to bring this to the city council, and then what they've done is they gave you notice. Let me finish quickly. They gave you notice at a time period that we had 3 days to provide public to come in. You have a petition from the neighbors. They're supportive of this wall, and they want to have a hearing, so we don't have time to bring it in to you.
Thank you. Your time is up. Thank you for your comments. I'm assuming we can have staff look into this, let us know.
No, ma'am, this is an active code enforcement case,
It
so
is.
we're not going to speak to it on the dais tonight.
I understand. Thank you. Okay, do we have anybody else that would like to speak to the council? Okay. I'm going to move on to having our city attorney report out our closed session.
Yes, thank you. This evening, we had 2 items on closed session, but there was no reportable action taken. Thank you.
Thank you.
Had the closed session earlier
But
today.
you're reporting on it now, so I should be, did you have comment on your closed session? Because I don't know if you've agendized.
It was on the agenda, yes,
Did you
earlier.
agendize your closed session correctly? Because you don't seem to have followed the code sections.
It's on the agenda.
I saw it on the agenda, and you've cited code sections without filling out the rest of what is needed on there as to what cases you had. We can talk later about it.
I'm comfortable with the
but,
agenda.
I
Thank
think
you.
you'll find out that the codes have changed, and your agenda needs to be updated.
Thank you for your comments. And with that, we're going to adjourn this meeting. Thank you.